But why you're really here, that's to hear Mark first. After working in Washington on the staff of U.S. Senator Edward Kennedy and New York for the Ford Foundation and National Coalition for Haitian Refugees, Mark arrived in New Jersey in 1985 as a Robert Fellow in Peace Studies at Woodrow Wilson School. Obtaining his master's degree in teaching human rights and U.S. foreign policy, Mark has served the Wilson School as Advisory Council and Chair of Alumni Dividend. Mark is a Senior Policy Fellow at the Blaustein School of Planning and Public Policy at Rutgers State University of New Jersey, a W.K. Kellogg Foundation National Fellow, and a proud member of the League New Jersey class of 1991. But at 12 years old, he wasn't inventing things, as our two folks are here. But he's still a pretty good guy. And it's my pleasure to welcome Mark, and when you go with League New Jersey. Mark.
All right, first things first, I'm not as tall as Peter Crowley, so let's do that. Well, first, this is off the cuff, but very important. Joey and Heidi, thank you for having me. As Peter so bluntly put it, what was I doing at age 12? We're actually going to come back to that later in the talk. It's actually germane. Well, thank you, Princeton Area Chamber of Commerce. Thank you, Peter Crowley, Vice President Alice Barfield for setting this up. Board Chair John Gurdicke. Gurdicke. Yeah. Welcome and thank you for your new position. We
never got that first year anyway.
We'll get it. We'll get it.
We're passing it on.
We're all in training here. May I please have a show of hands of those in the audience who are fellows of Lead New Jersey? Look around the room. The first lesson of public speaking is leave nothing to chance. Always seed your audience. I also want to add, we are joined by Jeffrey Vega, who just raised his hand. Not only is he a fellow, but he's also on the board. He is my boss. Good to see you, Jeffrey. Now, bear with me. If you take umbrage with anything I say this morning, please share it with me privately. If, however, you find anything you like, please share it with Jeffrey. I hope we are known by the company we keep, because in this room are people with accomplishment, people with abilities who have applied them to some great things. So I'm humbled to be the one at the podium, but one of the lessons of leadership is I happen to be at the podium now, but each one of us is leading by example. Thank you for your patience. I was supposed to come before you in March, but one of our new normal snowstorms prevented that. And in the last couple of days, I've looked over my remarks from March to see if anything needed updating. It is certainly a measure of our times just how much has changed in a single quarter. So it is when leading in turbulent times is the topic. All right, first a little introduction on Lead New Jersey. Lead New Jersey's a private nonprofit created by Governor Tom Kean and a group of about a dozen enlightened business leaders 32 years ago to expose people like you, senior executives from all sectors around the state, to the challenges facing our state and to explore new networks among them to make a difference. Today we have almost 1,700 program graduate fellows who are leaders in business, academia, government, and making New Jersey a better place to live and work. The subtext for the conversation today is the signal amidst the noise. So first we need to talk about what is the noise. We're going to examine the static in our culture today, in our political and economic and social life, but then we're going to talk about the enduring role of leadership to create that signal, to gather people around to act in concert. Let's begin with some rather sobering statistics. The Edelman Trust Barometer is an international annual poll of public confidence in business, media, government, non-governmental organizations. Their 2017 international survey of respondents globally considered government officials. 71% of respondents across the world said they were not credible or only somewhat credible. And 63% of respondents had the same dismal view of business and CEOs. Now, the number may be new, but the trend is certainly not a surprise to any of us. Across dozens of countries, people have been airing their grievances against the status quo through social media, protests, consumer choice, and of course the ballot box. Here at home, Harvard government professors Stephen Levitsky and Daniel Ziblatt, writing in their new book, How Democracies Die, trace the current cycle of cynicism to the 1996 Contract with America movement of then House Speaker Newt Gingrich. The policy prescriptions in that document were pure party doctrine, but the tactics used to sell it included demonizing foes as disloyal and un-American, and instilling party unity by demonizing discussion as betrayal. This ushered in our current era of challenging the very legitimacy of our adversary and rejecting all restraint in the unbridled exercise of any tactic not expressly forbidden by law. You and I are caught in this storm of competing accusations and doctrines, and each election cycle now swings wildly from one side to another as we vainly seek some mythical leader who will shelter us. At Lead New Jersey's seminar on public leadership, we consider the elections of both Obama and Trump as repudiations of what came before in favor of a largely untried outsider. Just remember 18 months ago when we saw the first Republican Party debate for the nomination, there were 12 people on a stage. And remember, there were 17 who were actually running for that nomination. So 12 people on a stage is not a measure of a robust democracy. It's a cacophony. And we are likely to see that same trend 3 years hence, if we're not careful, on both sides of the aisle, right? Now it's pretty abundantly clear that we're all infected by this. Today we can't even coalesce around a shared set of facts on which to proceed. Senator Daniel Moynihan once famously stated, "You are entitled to your own opinion, but not to your own facts." That obvious maxim has been turned on its head by those who thrive on the chaos fomented by sowing doubt and falsehood. And this is not just in Washington, but here on Main Street. In business, remember when, not so long ago, the term disruptive technology was high praise and a sure signal to eager investors. Now it is better applied to hacked data systems, the stealing of our personal information from cyber vaults, the vulnerability of online commerce. And corporate America has its own spectacular frauds strewn across the front page. So to sum up the noise, runaway distrust of each other, rampant lying or at least the shading of truth, and often a retreat from all of that to cower with our own kind, our own tribe. We coalesce around like. That's the noise of the world in which we operate. So what is that signal? What is that truth that we can put forth, hold on to, coalesce around? Deans of both the Harvard Business and Government schools joined recently to recommit to something they called principled leadership. Leadership, they contend, is not about opportunism or winning at any cost. It is about advancing the common good and making a difference in the world. In every domain in which we operate, home, to work, social, civic, religious engagement, effective leaders look out for those they serve and demonstrate in their actions a set of core values. And there's that word, values. Simply put, values. Do as I do, not as I say. If we would move anyone to act with us, we first must establish trust. At Lead New Jersey, we exercise two practices to establish trust and begin our common work. One practice addresses things, the other people. Let's talk about things first. I begin the year by saying to our fellows, seek first to understand. Now think about that. We don't press our cause. We don't triumph a set of understandings that we know. Seek first to understand. Fortunately, we have the tools derived from science to do that. Hypothesis, test, and I think the great unsung value of science is you look for evidence that refutes your hypothesis, not that corroborates. You're always seeking that which may disprove your pet theory, not support it. If we were to exchange infallibility of our beliefs for replicability of results, we would be further down the road. So let's ask each other, let's ask those around us, how will we know if we are wrong? And how would we act on that information? Now, as regards individuals, I'm going to exhort us to do something that is in very short supply. Practice humility and followership. Odd for someone whose life is spent trying to create leaders who will go and make change. Practice humility and followership. How do we do this? Listen and learn from a wide range of experience, what we call diversity. Today's rapid change environment requires adaptive leaders, not self-proclaimed strongmen. Surround ourselves with those who will help us adapt. Now, that's not quite as hard as you might expect. Let me demonstrate with you how at Lead New Jersey we start off on that path. Each year, we take our selected fellows through an exercise to cut through our national myth of the self-made man. And with your permission, we can do this together now. First, I invite you all to get comfortable in your chair, if you're not already. Sit in a position that feels natural and allows you to relax. I'm going to ask, that's right, just like back in school. Now, I'm going to ask each one of us to take 2 minutes and go inside to consider the following. Go back in time to when you were young, when you were uncertain, and when you were untested. Who believed in you? Saw in you the potential you did not know you had? It may be a parent or a relative. It may be a Girl Scout leader, an 8th grade teacher, a soccer coach. In your mind, if you would please, recall that exact moment and context where that individual lifted you up and set you on a new course. If you would please, let's do this. Now at Lead, New Jersey, after that moment of getting in touch, we pair off and we tell each other our personal story, and then we stand and introduce the person whose story they've told, telling the story. It's a wonderful icebreaker. Use it. It works. I will just share, I would be nowhere if it wasn't for a 4th grade English teacher. And instead of calling me student or delinquent, she actually called me writer in the 4th grade. And it stuck with me. And I published my first poetry in the 7th grade. I published 2 short stories in high school, and it went on to there. My first article appeared in the Washington Post when I was 21. And I credit her with planting that seed in my mind. And she didn't give me hope. She gave me something even more. She gave me an identity. And I dare say, somewhere in that background is that moment for you that puts you on that different path. Now, why would we do this in Lead, New Jersey? Not only to bring out the humility that comes from saying, we stand on the shoulders of giants, but it also gives us the humility to say, and I have so much more to learn. Let me seek rather than instruct. A month ago, I took our 52 current year fellows through a seminar we call E Pluribus Unum, out of many, one. It's essentially a listening and reflective exercise, a chance to set aside our own cultural perspective and expectation to walk a mile in another's shoes. Rarely do we see a leader who looks at diversity the same again. We hold that seminar in a Muslim mosque, the second largest in the state, because it's the first time that most of us will ever set foot in that house of worship. To come together with those, frankly, very, very different from ourselves, who tell us of their love of family, community, God, and break bread with us. Those are the experiences that can transform lives. The challenge for leaders then is to find ways to work with people who hold different opinions without abandoning their own core principles. One model for this style of leadership is Robert Zimmer, the president of the University of Chicago, who advocates for free and open speech, even when the ideas espoused are unpopular or distasteful. Zimmer wrote in the University of Chicago magazine in 2016, and I quote, "Universities cannot be viewed as a sanctuary for comfort, but rather as a crucible for confronting ideas." And isn't that true for all of us? We live in a deliberative democracy. Compromise is the core feature of a democratic society. We are not going to be triumphant We are not going to banish, or squelch the opponent. Our greatness is defined by how we come together, making those compromises that move the country forward. Now, you're all about to head out of this room, and almost immediately you'll be buffeted by the conflicts around delivering your goods and services and making tough trade-offs on tight budgets. I myself have served on the New Jersey State Legislative Redistricting Commission, and I chair the state's Office of Dispute Resolution. So I have a taste of what it's like to please none of the people all of the time. But remember, it is through our conduct, if you will, our character, that we set the tone of mutual respect and create the climate of shared goals to counteract distrust and anger that can so easily engulf us. Remember, if you want trust, be trustworthy. And if you want to lead, try this line from a public school teacher friend of mine. Better to be the guide on the side than the sage on the stage. So having said that, I'm a little embarrassed to be standing up here. That concludes what I wanted to say. I want to thank Peter and all of you again for giving me this opportunity. And what I seek is to stimulate conversation, stimulate your own ideas, not provide any conclusions. But let's work together. Thank you. Any questions? Except from you, Jeffrey. Please. On several occasions, I've written articles on leadership that say to lead is to act. And to act is to see the opportunity where others simply see the challenge, right? What I fear is the wholesale retreat, right? As I said before, into our comfort zone, into those who think the way we do. And to act means to step out right in the teeth of the problem, the opposition, and to state your truth. I'm going to take that one step further. I can't tell you how touched I am by what Tom Gilmore just told us. Barely a couple of days ago, a terrible, tragic act occurred in Trenton, a community already on its back, fighting years of isolation, disinvestment, racism, who nonetheless came together as a community over a number of years to create a signature artistic event and to build that community around that event, all to be sundered by a middle-of-the-night shooting. Okay, I'm putting you on the spot. I'm sorry, Tom. What does Tom do? Do you go home and lick your wounds? No. You put on another event. And this is not some simple little artist gathering. This is us coming together to say we will not be deterred. We will not be defined by a single tragic moment. We are community. Please come out and join in a movement. So I believe that to lead is to act. Otherwise, we just sit and complain. And we all do it. I do it every day. Oh, look at that. What are they doing now? Right? Joe sits here with his 2 kids, being raised in the society that I just described, but not giving into it, rising above. I am deeply touched by the engagement of our young people, right? All those stereotypes that people of my age give to people of their age, and my own children are in middle school. My own children now regularly practice evacuation exercises in case there's a school shooting. What an affront to each and every one of us. What can we do? Do not be complacent. Do not accept a new normal. Do not dumb down. Do not practice acceptance. Stand up for who we are as a people. We are a diverse collection who have come to this country recently or within the last 300 years for a better life. We adhere to a set of principles, not an ethnic origin, and those who agree to those principles of deliberative democracy, now is the time to fully participate in ways that are authentic to you. And this is not a political speech. This is a democracy statement. It's ours. And I mean democracy in the broadest sense. In our workplace, in our civic engagement, in our religious gatherings. Talk to one another. Work things out. Try to find the common ground. Seek a higher solution, not the lowest common denominator. That's what makes us great. Thank you so much.